In this video, we're going to learn how to disappear. We're going to take a look at some practical customization we can do to our own camping kit. Hopefully nice, simple, low-cost upgrades that will, if not make us invisible, at least make us far less noticeable when we're out and about stealth camping, wild camping. Before we start playing around with different types of camouflage netting and looking like we're preparing for the end of the world, I want to start with one of the more simple, basic and almost universal problems I found with a lot of my camping gear, especially when it comes to not being seen at night, and that is reflective patches and high brightness, high contrast colour elements. If you've seen many of my general videos throughout this year, then you may have noticed that my headlamp is really bright. It's a great light, I absolutely love it, but it's got one massive flaw. The strap has these ridiculously reflective elements on it. Similarly, my bivy bag, which is an Alpkit Elan, I absolutely love it, I can't fault it, apart from, once again, these massively reflective strips. An even more general use item than either of these examples is the coat that my girlfriend bought me during the summer. Every single zip has a little cord toggle which has a reflective strip sewn into it. And these are absolutely tiny, you wouldn't think they would be able to reflect as much light as they do. To show you why this is a problem and just how visible they make you, I've put the head strap on top of the bivy bag and I'm walking away here with just my iPhone light illuminating the area, so a really unfocused and really dim light, and it's still reflecting so brightly in the darkness. This is my gimbal light, again a really dim light in the grand scheme of things and meant for close-up selfie videos and photography, so again really diffuse, non-focused. Then when we look at the scene with my proper light, you can see that the main beam doesn't have to be anywhere near the actual reflective strips, just that peripheral light is enough to really light you up like a beacon in the dark. So somebody doesn't even need to be looking for you to discover an unusual reflective object that might pique their curiosity in the distance. So with something like the head strap and my coat toggles, there's not much I could do other than literally swap them out for non-reflective or nothing at all. And you can see here now, suddenly, with a change of trousers, weirdly, the only thing reflecting any light back at that point is from the mirrored surface inside my headlight itself. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that both of my smallest tents have outrageously bright guy lines, almost day glow, and yes, I know that's for safety of course, and yes, I do anticipate tripping over these a lot using what are literally camouflage coloured paracord guy lines from now on, but I was amazed when you actually look at this in context side by side, just how visible the yellow is and how the camouflage coloured paracord I'm going to be using from now on is practically invisible, and it's more the shadow of it that you see on the ground. And if we look at it from this angle, again, look how close up we've got to go before we actually see it there. So this was something I didn't think was going to make too much of a difference, but you can see whether we're hanging them freely without a background immediately next to them or whether they're on the ground, there is a surprising difference in visibility. So that was just something I wanted to throw in here as a little bonus thought. But of course, like I say, they are that bright for safety and so that you're not tripping over them in the dark. And yes, I know I'm going to have all sorts of problems and I will be crying when I accidentally rip my tent because I've fallen over my invisible guy lines. So yes, just to get all of that told you so out of the way now. Anyway, let's deal with the bivy bag. So I've of course got those really reflective strips to deal with, but I've also got 4 exposed areas of pole for the hooped section. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to just go all out here and spray paint the poles and see what happens. And I also then thought, you know what, let's spray paint the loops as well. So I just did one test pole and the main loop with a spray can of matte black paint. And I had previously tried to use a Sharpie to draw and cover up the reflective strips on the bivy, and that had not worked at all, so I'll be honest, I wasn't really expecting the spray paint to be able to do much for the reflective area. However, just take a look at this. We now have basically zero reflection, And because I only did this one test one, I can actually compare it to the other loops at the rear of the bivvy under the same lighting conditions, just to prove that it's not a fluke or something slightly altered about the way I'm filming. So I'm very pleased with that, although of course there is a potential downside here. I don't know what the tendency for this paint is going to be to chip off and break away over time. When we look at the pole test, we also see a significant difference. Although nowhere near the level of reflection issue that the reflective strips had, you can see that the matte black finish is really giving us absolutely nothing back. And when we look at these distance tests, you can see, although neither of them are really beaming out like a beacon, the non-spray painted one does give us that little reflection that shifts and moves depending on our perspective and point of view, which could give you away in the darkness. To wrap up this section, I want to spend a second looking at the pegs that I use. Now, I don't consider these to be too much of a risk because they should be pushed nicely down into the ground and should be easy to cover over with a little bit of dirt. And if you did spray paint them black, for example, it's going to start to make them potentially very difficult to find when you're trying to pick them all up after you've camped. I've spoken before about my absolute love of camouflage netting, and I'll show you a few examples of it in action here and then show you my new much darker netting that I've got. And you can see it's really easy to use, it's really cheap on Amazon these days, and it's so lightweight and easy to compress. It's not like there's a massive downside to it, in my humble opinion. It's just a cheap and easy way to help break up the lines of your campsite and give you a little bit more cover from the general public. And even in this case, you can see it's just an excellent base to hold on a load of leaves and sticks from the general surroundings. And of course, there's not much better camouflage than using the environment itself. But a lot of people said that those patterns were too bright, and I didn't really give it much thought until I got this much darker one. And well, I can't believe how effective it is. And when you look back at those leaves that I was just using, they are of course a lot darker in general than the camouflage patterns beneath them. I actually used this darker pattern to great effect recently to fill in this gap in the tree cover where I was cooking in the woods. And as you can see, not only does this add a literal physical barrier between your campsite and the outside world, but this darker pattern really does blend in well with the surroundings, and that's when we're stood practically right on top of it. Having been so impressed with it in the daytime and doing all of this nighttime footage for the reflections part of this video, I thought I better take out my camo netting and see what it looks like in the dark. And as you can see, I think that that darker pattern again excels compared to the other two, even on a backdrop that is nothing at all like the woodland environment in which it works so well in the daytime. And I suppose what we've got to remember when we do these tests and look at these things is, in general, you're not trying to hide with camo netting from somebody who is going to be literally up close looking at the netting. You're trying to stop somebody seeing you from a distance or out of the corner of their eye. And for that here again, I think that the dark pattern is the best of the three. As I was finalising this video, I noticed this shot that I hadn't included earlier where I directly compare the spray painted loop to one of the non-sprayed loops, so that's definitely, if it lasts, a fantastic treatment. Anyway, I will see how this goes, and if the bivvy bag dissolves, I'll report back in the future. But I hope you've found this curious, enjoyable, slightly amusing or entertaining. Please do consider giving this video a like and subscribing for loads more camping adventures and stuff like this. If you really want to help me out, consider becoming a channel member, supporting me on PayPal, Coffee, or checking out some of my Amazon links to the gear you might have seen in this video below. If you buy through my Amazon links, I will get a commission, so it's a great way to support these videos without affecting the price you pay. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much to all of my current and recent supporters, subscribers, PayPal supporters, super thankers. It really does mean a lot to me, and as I say, I couldn't do half the stuff I've done this year without the support of you. Thank you very much, everybody. Until the next time, keep it stealthy, keep it interesting, have a fantastic day, and of course, farewell.